I have spent most of the past week and a half deeply buried in the task of producing these environmental awareness things that are going out every day in September, planning the sermons for all of September, all the other things that I've had to catch up on since I came back from my sabbatical. I've been deep in deep thought and big planning and all these highfalutin things that I like to do because it makes me feel like I'm doing my job. But then one day this week, I got an email saying I owed $2.10 on one of my credit cards. A credit card that I keep in a drawer and never actually use. So I had to go and find out why I owed $2.10, and I paid it because, what are you going to do? It turned out I did actually owe it. But it was a good reminder that it pulled me back into the practical stuff that I have to do. I could easily be one of those professors who, like Albert Einstein, forgot to tie their shoes, all the things that you have to do normally to keep your life going. Once in a while, something comes along and kind of kicks you in the shins to remind you that there's all this practical stuff you have to do in order to do the other stuff. It was that was in my head as I read the lessons again for today. I didn't preach on Sunday. I will confess to you in the safety of this place that there are times when I'm not preaching on Sunday, when I hear the lessons read and I say, yes, that's a very holy thing. I'm glad we heard that. I feel better for knowing that. And I move on without really stopping to analyze or pick apart or do the things you're supposed to do to try to figure out what the lessons are saying to you. So I guess it was a blessing to me, at least, that I got to hear the lessons read again today and stop and think about them this time. What I noticed when I read the gospel again is there isn't a whole lot of God talk in it. Jesus is giving this advice that could be given by almost any secular ethicist. Know your place in the group. Don't make more of yourself than you actually are. And that's good advice because it'll keep you out of a lot of trouble in human society. But there isn't a whole lot of, well, why is this important from the perspective of being a religious person in this lesson? So I had to stop and think, well, what is in it that's supposed to be telling us anything about what we are spiritually? What occurred to me is that it's more often than not the case that it's our ego that gets in the way of our relationship with God. At least for me, and again, perhaps here I'm preaching only to myself. Very often it is because I think I've got everything that I need. I think I know everything I need to know. I think I'm in charge of my own life and can run it efficiently, that I fail to notice when the presence of God in my life is what really makes the difference. When I'm way off in my own affairs, it's very easy to be distracted from the fact that somehow I've got to come back and find God at the root of everything, at the base of everything, behind everything that goes on in my life. And so it is that occasionally these lessons come up as a kick in the shins to say, don't forget the practicalities and the way that they are calling you back to why you do the rest. I'm making a confused statement of this, I realize, but hearing this lesson again pulls me back to how it is that I actually do my faith. Why it is that doing my faith is not the highfalutin thing that I do when I'm off thinking the big thoughts, but often is, in fact, what I do practically when I'm not being distracted, when I'm reminded of the practicalities of living in a community with other people of faith, with other people who have no faith, but who nonetheless are in need of it. So it is that I'm grateful that this time I had the same lessons read to me twice. I got the divine kick in the shins, the $2.10 due on my divine credit card. I was reminded why I'm doing all this. Amen.